Welcome back to the Rodecast, guys. Hope y'all doing well out there. I'm your host, Rod, as always. And in this video, we're going to be looking at one of the most entitled protests that I've seen for a while. And that is because there's a bunch of illegals and their advocates who had a Reclaim Our Streets dance-a-thon / protest closing off a street in Hollywood recently, yesterday. And they are claiming to reclaim the streets, their streets. And my first thought was, how could you possibly reclaim something that you never had? Okay, so this is the level of entitlement. They break into the country illegally, they commit crimes, and then they want sympathy. And not only that, they want to own parts of the country that they're not even from, that their ancestors didn't even build. So hilarious once again, but let's get started with this video.
Protesters rallied across Los Angeles today to call for an end to the ongoing ICE raids they claim are creating terror across the region. Demonstrators dubbed the series of events today Reclaim Our Streets.
They say hundreds of people have disappeared, leaving families broken with few answers about where their loved ones are being held. KTLA's Carlos Salcedo is live in Boyle Heights with more on the movement that is growing across the city. Carlos.
Before Jose here starts, let me show you guys what terror and broken families look like, because Rachel Morin's mom spoke at the White House about 2 months ago, and Patty Morin's daughter, Rachel Morin, was the one who was subject to terror by an illegal that crossed the border under Biden's watch. And really was the people around Biden that was giving him horrible advice and, getting him to sign legislation that allowed for open borders. But nevertheless, he was president, so the buck stops with him. So it's his fault, and it's all the fault of the people who are influencing him, all the open borders people. But whoever was doing it, it was horrible policy, and it led to Rachel Morin being horribly abducted and murdered, a mother of 5, a real American.
A lot of you don't know the whole story about Rachel and about the crime that was committed against her. Even us, her family, we didn't know all the details. They kept most of it close to their chest, the detectives, because they didn't want to do anything to hurt the case. They wanted to keep the integrity of the case. So they kept everything close. You know that Rachel's a 37-year-old mother. She has 5 children. We've walked the trail for the last 25 years that we've lived in Maryland. It's a safe place for our family. It's where we go to get a little bit of New England, because that's where we're from, New England. When she went on that trail that day, she was not planning on dying. She wasn't planning on walking to her death. She was planning on going to the grocery store with her girls afterwards. Victor Martinez, he waited for her. He waited for her to come closer. He saw her. He saw that there was nobody around. He attacked her. He dragged her 150 feet, blood gushing from her head. It left a 150-foot trail of her blood to the culverts, where he picked her up, he threw her against the wall of the tunnel, and he raped her. But before he did that, he stopped on that trail, and rocks, still stained with her blood, he used them to hammer her head against those rocks. They say at least 20 times they could count the cuts in her head. They said that when they did the autopsy, and I've seen the pictures, there's a 6-inch square in the back of her head where the skull is shattered the way that you would crush an eggshell in pieces. 3/4 of her brain hemorrhaged. Her right and left side of her face bashed in. Her beautiful face bashed in. Her head bashed in. Broken bones, fractures. He takes and he drags her some more. He drags her through the thorn bushes. She has all the scrapes and cuts on her body. There wasn't 1 inch of her body that didn't have some kind of injury. whether it's bruising, broken bones, contusions, the scratches. She had a fractured rib, fractured nose, fractured skull. And then he takes her into the tunnel and he picks her up. He throws her against the wall. Blood is gushing from her head. Her hair is soaked in blood. And they showed us pictures of her body against the wall, outlined. The blood outlined her body. And you could see where the blood ran down around her as he was raping her. And then he threw her down and raped her some more.
So that's an example of some of the great people that Joe Biden led into the street and put American women in danger. I've only listened to that video once before because I can't handle listening to this. I can't handle it. It's too much. Okay. But this is reality of immigration and that nobody covers. Everybody wants to talk about the hardworking people who are coming in, but nobody talks about the Americans, the only people who actually should matter to the government, the Americans being murdered, American women being raped and murdered by these animals that are there, that they're letting in through because of their open borders ideology. So never forget the American victims, because to me, they're the only ones that matter. I don't care about these taco eaters who want a better life. We owe you none of that. America owes these people nothing. Okay. Our government's job is to protect Americans, and specifically American women, which they have not done a good job of doing because they're too busy bleeding their hearts out for a bunch of dirty foreigners who have no right to be here. Okay, they pretend like these freaking tamale eaters crossed the Delaware with George Washington, which they did not. Okay, they should be focusing on people who've been here, like my family has, since 1638 in America, helped the English build America from the ground up, and the rest of the families who came from England and came from Western Europe, from the UK, who built America. That's who they should be focusing on. And also the African Americans and their descendants who are also here since the 1600s. We are the real Americans. That's who they should be focusing on. But what else instead of that, what do we have? We have local news simping for a bunch of illegals and trying to make us feel bad that ICE is getting them out after they broke into our country. This is the upside down world that we live in.
Well, normally Mariachi Plaza here in Boyle Heights is bustling with people day and night. But since these ICE raids started last month, foot traffic has been down. Tonight, community members tell me they hope to change that. From shutting down the 6th Street Bridge in downtown LA to holding rallies condemning the ongoing ICE raids, immigrant rights activists took to the streets Tuesday to get their message across.
We're reclaiming our streets from ICE, who has been terrorizing our communities, our city, our streets for over 3 weeks now.
Yeah, ICE is a federal organization who actually belongs in America, who's recognized by the executive branch. You are a dirty illegal who should not even be able to breathe the same oxygen as those ICE agents. You shouldn't even be in this country. But that's why they exist, to get you the hell out of this country. And you can have all the mariachi parades you want. We're still going to drag you screaming out of this country.
Dozens of people gathered at Mariachi Plaza in Boyle Heights, one of several Reclaim Our Streets events being held across Southern California. A space with food, music, and resources for the undocumented.
Yeah, disgusting food, disgusting music. I want to add, these are the worst. Their language is the worst, so their music is disgusting. And they blast this crap all over the neighborhood, ruining the quality of life for real Americans. And their food is even more disgusting, their third world food.
Documented community.
We follow the rule. We pay our taxes. The only crime we have is we don't have a document.
Carlos.
Yeah, this is the most insulting thing that I ever heard. This piece of crap over here just summed up me and my family and my ancestors' entire contribution to a document. Citizenship is not document. It's based on blood. This is actually a good time to explain the difference between an immigrant and a settler. Okay, my ancestors and the English who came here in the 1600s, They were settlers, meaning when they got here, there was nothing. Yeah, sure, there were roving bands of natives here who had no civilization. They didn't have city-states. They didn't have villages. They were not developed. They were literal savages. That's why they were called that by the English. The Native Americans, they didn't build anything. They moved from place to place. They were nomadic, okay? They didn't have city-states. They didn't own land. So, for example, when the Swedish got here back in 1638, when colonization started from the Swedish Empire, that's my ancestors, there was nothing here. In Delaware specifically, okay? They built the cities and the towns from the ground up. They laid the foundations. They never took anything from the Native Americans, and they certainly didn't have slaves, okay? My ancestors actually built everything with their hands. They were the ones who first colonized around the Great Lakes in Delaware, okay? So they built everything from the ground up. Immigrants come later after the settlers have done all the work, and then they siphon things off of us, and they live off of what the settlers have built. That's the difference between a settler colonist, and an immigrant. Okay, so the left needs to learn that, because not all of us are immigrants. My ancestors were not immigrants, and I'm certainly not one. And so there's a conflict of interest between immigrants and settlers. The people who actually built everything from the ground up, they're settlers. They're the real people that own this land. Everybody else comes afterward, and those immigrants do not own anything, or they should not. Unfortunately, they do. Even illegals own property in America now. That's how badly backwards we have gone to take rights away from the native population. So this entitled F here is the most disgusting thing I ever seen. This guy needs to be dragged out of here. Okay, it's not a document. The citizenship is a demonstration of what everything that the English and the Swedes and the Dutch and the Finns who were here in the 1600s, what they built cannot be summed up to a document. Okay, your crime is your blood is not from this land. Your ancestors did not build this land. This goes deeper than a document. That's why I don't care about your legal status. Legal status is etched into your DNA. It's about who was here first, who colonized the land, and whose ancestors get to live in it. The descendants of the colonists are the only people who should be allowed to live in a land. Everybody else, go colonize your own land. Okay, that's all I gotta say. And this is not your land. The Northern Europeans here kicked Spain's ass in 2 wars, and we paid them for California. Okay, so this is our land. No, it's not stolen. We beat you because we're better than you. Now this is our land. Okay, so get the hell out. You have no rights to be here.
Freya says his sister, Emma de Paz, was working as a street vendor in Hollywood last month when she was taken by federal officers.
She was selling carne asada over there, and they got her like a criminal. They just come and put her on the floor. I talked to her like 3 days ago.
No, but she can go sell carne asada back in her own country. Okay, because she had no right to be here, and I support every single street vendor that's been detained, and they should be deported out of here.
And she was worried about what she's gonna do for her medicine.
They're calling attention to missing loved ones swept up during immigration enforcement efforts. DHS reports more than 1,600 immigrants were arrested in June. Over in Huntington Park, the event was more of a drive-through resource fair for families too scared to get out of their vehicles.
The families that he's hurt.
Yeah, why are they scared? It's because they've broken the law. It's because they're a bunch of criminals. That's why they're scared.
Individuals that are hardworking and hardworking individuals that have made up.
Yeah, they're hardworking, stealing America's jobs, and no amount of hard work can replace the fact that their ancestors didn't even build this country, which means they have no right to be here. It's like you build a house for decades, and then random people just walk into it who didn't contribute anything to building the house, but want to stay in that house and live rent-free forever. That's what's happening here. Okay, people who didn't even contribute to building a house wants to live in the house and have the same rights as the builders of the house. That's what's happening. That's how insane this is. It's like me going to Mexico and demanding citizenship and a house and all these things when I'm not Mexican, and my ancestors didn't build Mexico, so I don't have any right to be in Mexico. Okay, that's the equivalent of what's happening here.
Life here, they haven't hurt anyone.
A lot of the people who
their very existence here hurts everybody. Okay, I don't want to see them. I don't want to hear their languages. You are destroying the quality of life for real Americans like myself by being here. That's why you can't be here. I don't care about your whiny complaints. You have your own country. Go back there.
have been detained, the data shows that people don't have a criminal record.
Their very existence here, their ugly bodies being on this land is a criminal offense, woman. You being here is a criminal offense against me. So I don't care about other crimes. And by the way, much of your people do commit other crimes. Okay, we've seen that. I just showed an example.
In South LA, dozens also rallied and marched in solidarity.
Because we have neighbors and loved ones that has gotten taken away from their families, and we're just here to support them.
Yeah, I got news for you. A lot of your black people would have more jobs if these Hispanics weren't taking them. So it's hilarious when we got the woke black people trying to destroy their own economic prospects by supporting these people. But hey, that they have rights. You can do whatever you like. Okay, if you want to destroy your own economic futures, that's your decision. Don't complain to us later about how you don't have jobs. All right, I don't want to hear what this guy's got to say. So the bottom line is none of these people should be here. And this is the face of a real American whose life has been destroyed. Her family's life has been destroyed because of the open borders policies that Democrats usually have, and some Republican presidents have also had in the past. Like I said, Reagan gave amnesty to like 3 million people who should never have received any amnesty. So that's what American presidents have been doing, prioritizing foreigners over Americans. And it's disgusting. Every single one of these people need to be dragged out of here. And that's what ICE is doing. And I support everything they do. And that's all I got to say for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next one. And stay safe out there.